Hey guys, what's happening? I'm here today to talk about something I don't really talk about too often on this channel, which is the sort of rules, hammer, gameplay, strategy, theory crafting side of things. You know, this is mostly a hobby and or lore channel, but I do play the game as well and I do have some thoughts on it. And occasionally those thoughts, I think, are not too bad. With the advent of the new Admech Codex, I think one of the things that people are most frustrated about, at least that I can tell amongst the Admech community, is that Belisarius Cawl in 9th edition is kind of not worth it. So I wanted to posit today that there is one simple change that can be made to make Cawl go from pretty overcosted and not very good to like maybe actually something to consider worth taking and a fair, not overpowered, but still good choice for the army. To understand what that change is going to be, I want to take you through his stat line real quick. Let's take a look at who Belisarius Cawl is. He is 180 points. He is a Tech Priest, Supreme Commander, Monster character. Most of those keywords aren't that relevant. Monster and Supreme Commander are the two ones that are the big changes to his keywords, and I'll get into a little bit of the implications of that later. 6 inches of movement, 2 up weapon skill, 2 up ballistic skill, strength of 5, toughness 6, 8 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership of 9, save of a 2+, with also a 4 up invulnerable save. That's getting into his abilities. The first of which is his warlord trait. He must take Masterwork Bionics, which gives him a 4 up invulnerable save and also subtracts 1 from the damage characteristic of any weapons that attack him, to a minimum of 1, of course. This man is an absolute tank. He is very hard to move from the battlefield. You can put him somewhere and it's going to take a lot of effort to get him out of there. With a 2 up, 4 up invuln, -1 damage, that's already pretty good. Slap 8 wounds onto that as well. And a self-repair. Don't even get me started. This guy can heal himself for D3 wounds. He can heal himself every single turn. It's insane. He's not going anywhere.
I am
and it's
invincible.
gonna take a lot of concentrated firepower to take him off of any spot where you put him. So this sort of gets me into where we can start to see a little bit of change. Let's take a look at his weapons. He's an Omniscient X, +2 strength. So hitting on strength 7, -2 AP, 2 damage. It's a pretty solid overall, you know, Space Marine killer type of thing. And he also has an Arc Scourge, which is a strength ×2 weapon, strength 10, -2 AP for 1 damage. If it's attacking a vehicle, it has a damage characteristic of 2 and automatically wounds on a 2 up. Very good against vehicles. I would say it's also quite good against a lot of the damage nullification auras that you see that make damage 2 not quite as relevant. Not a damage 3. Would have loved to see a damage 3 weapon here, but that's okay. He also has a Mechadendrite Hive, strength user, so strength 5, 0 AP, damage 1. But whenever you fight, you make 2d6 extra attacks with this weapon. I mean, you're getting 2 to 12 attacks every single time. This is clearly meant to be sort of like an anti-swarm weapon, and I believe it is used appropriately as such. It could also just do some chip damage, you know. See, people can fail their saves sometimes, you know. It can get you over the finish line if your other weapons aren't quite doing it. And here we come to the problem child, the Solar Atomizer. Range 12 inches, assault D3 profile, strength 10, AP -4, damage 3. On paper, fantastic. Ability: each time an attack made with this weapon targets a unit within half range at 6 inches, that attack has a damage characteristic of D3 +3. So truly lethal in very close range. All of these weapons, every single one of them, indicate one thing to me. Cawl wants to be up front in the action. He's a melee hero. He's a melee HQ choice. He really wants to be up there. He's super hard to remove, super resilient, and he has so many ways to handle melee threats. He has anti-swarm, anti-elite infantry, anti-vehicle. He's got the entire kit. But there's a problem. That Solar Atomizer, it's got a blast profile. And being a monster, one of the most significant changes to his profile, to his keywords, allows Cawl to fire in combat. But as the rules state, you cannot fire a blast profile weapon in engagement range with the ability Big Guns Never Tire. It's such a missed opportunity. I feel like Cawl could have been an absolute beast in melee if they just took off blast. Make it assault 1. That doesn't even matter. Take out the D3, make it assault 1, take out blast. This dude would wreck face in melee, absolutely. And let's talk about some synergies here. His other abilities, he can reroll once to hit for Adeptus Mechanicus core units. That's fine, that applies to pretty much the entire core range of the army. Scutarii or Cult Mechanicus, sure. Lord of Mars, if you're playing Mars, you get full rerolls and not just rerolls of 1. The other ability though is where I think his melee nature, his true melee nature really kind of takes a hold here. In your command phase, this ability is called Lead in Prayer. In your command phase, you can select one friendly Cult Mechanicus core unit within 6 inches of this model. If you do so, then select one canticle. This can be one that has already been active for your army until the start of your next command phase. Both this model and that unit benefit from the selected canticle instead of the one that is active from your army. This is really good, but the only units it applies to are Electro Priests, both kinds of Electro Priests, and Castellan robots sometimes, and that's it. Those are the only applicable units. The one thing that all of those have in common in 9th edition, very melee focused. Of course, Corpuscari, Electro Priests have ranged abilities as well, but they kind of do both. If you're taking shooting Castellans in 9th, I'm sorry, but you're incorrect. This is actually, I think, a bit uninspired of an ability. It's a little bit boring. There is a Warlord trait that I think does the same thing, or maybe a stratagem. There's something that lets you do basically this. But the cool thing about it is it's actually super useful. Most of the canticles in the AdMech's repertoire deal with melee. You choose a defensive canticle for your army, say Litany of the Electromancer, -1 to hit against units in melee. Then in your command phase, when you have Cawl active, you switch to the offensive one. Benediction of the Omnissiah, you get some rerolls. Or you get +1 strength. You can do the one that lets you roll an extra d6 when charging. There's so many useful canticles offensively and defensively in melee that are very good for your Electro Priests, they're good for your Castellan robots, and being able to toggle between offensive and defensive in the same battle round is actually an incredibly powerful ability that I think often gets overlooked when looking at Belisarius Cawl. And I think part of the reason that is that most people see this character and are kind of not stuck, but maybe too used to the sort of 8th edition Cawl, where he just sat in the back lines and was just an aura spam character, providing like a whole bunch of rerolls to all of your tanks and all of your Onager Dune crawlers and all of your, Iron Striders and, your entire back line. He was just a moving bubble of auras. And I think, at least in 9th edition, his profile suggests melee. It suggests in your face, except for that Solar Atomizer. That's the one thing that I think really should change on this model. If there were going to be an FAQ on this model, make it Assault 1, take away Blast, and he would be a big threat. There are, I think, some reasons why GW has made sort of counterintuitive choices with this character. I come from a background of playing Magic the Gathering. And in Magic, there's a type of card called a Planeswalker card, which are sort of like showcasey, multi-ability, extremely powerful effects. They're the poster child, right? And it's been very difficult for Wizards of the Coast, the parent company that owns Magic the Gathering, to make a balanced, cheap Planeswalker. A lot of the ones that cost 3 mana are very good. The ones that cost 2 mana are either insanely good that they're so good that they're almost in every deck that can run them, or they're laughably bad. Because the most important resource is cost. Belisarius Cawl is 180 points. I believe that makes him, without actually checking, the cheapest Supreme Commander available for any faction. By a solid margin of at least 100 points, I'm pretty sure. I'll correct myself in the edit if I got that wrong. That's insanely cheap for a Supreme Commander, for a showcase model. And I think GW did, they tried to make a cheap Supreme Commander, a cheap showcase model. And they nerfed him a little bit too much. They kind of overtuned him because they know how powerful cheapness and points efficiency is in the game. So yeah, I do think he could be changed and still be balanced by changing the Solar Atomizer. He would be a massive threat in melee, being able to put out potentially 6 damage attacks at strength 10, AP -4, while in engagement range. That's a huge threat. Is it overpowered compared to the other Supreme Commanders? I don't really think so. You could even bump him to like 200 points. I think that might be a fair adjustment for that change. But I do think that GW went a little bit overboard with their tuning for Belisarius Cawl in 9th edition, and I think that the army really suffers for it because now we have this showcase character, the like now only named character in AdMech after Daedalosus has been removed from the game, or legended. He's the only named character we have now, and he is pretty much not unusable, but a very suboptimal pick. I do want to talk about his Supreme Commanderness a bit, because I do think the proper army for him is Ryza, and that is what I play. Rules-wise, I run Ryza in AdMech, and I plan to run Cawl because it's a cool model. I'm kit bashing my own, but I love big sort of splashy, showcasey stuff, and I want to show off my like homebrew characters a little bit, and the Cawl rule set is the only option I have for that currently. There's no generic Archmageos. There's no sort of like high ranking splashy model for AdMech currently, which is weird because they're known for their uniqueness and insanity and giant contraptions. But that's all we have is Cawl right now, and right now he is not really doing the job. So I'll challenge you. Try to run a homebrew game with this change. Solar Atomizer. Range 12. Type Assault 1. Remove Blast from its abilities. See what that does. Try to get him in there. Try to stick him in with some robots. Try to stick him in with some Electro Priests. Your mileage may vary, but I posit that he'll be pretty effective. Not that he's totally ineffective now, but I think he'll be much more of a threat and much scarier to your opponents if you make that one small change. But let me know what you think. Is this insanely broken? Am I totally missing something here? Is Cawl just absolute trash that should never be run? Let me know in the comments. And you know, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more sort of like theory crafting and stuff like that, I do have more opinions about the game as well, so leave a like if you want to see more of this stuff. And of course, as always, I post videos on Fridays, so be sure to subscribe to see some more. Peace!